Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. We continue our discussion on 24th word, 5th branch, first fruit. And we have been discussing this for, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks. Inshallah, we will study the last part of this text today. So I will start reading from, I will read the last 3 paragraphs, because last week we studied the paragraph that starts with indeed man loves firstly himself. I will start reading from there, but we discussed this last week, and we will continue with the last 2 paragraphs today, inshallah. And overall, the 5th branch was coming after, in the 4th branch, author talking about how human beings do worship, how they resemble angels in one sense and animals in another sense. And across the whole text, the 5th branch is now talking about to a creator who is manifesting everywhere in the existence with all his beautiful names. How do I respond back? How man responds back. So this is, I guess, in a nutshell, the context of the 5th branch. And in the first fruit, he was talking about how human has love and fear, and how these 2 feelings should be directed towards the creator rather than the creation. So I'm starting to read from the paragraph that starts with indeed, which is in page 368 in my version of the book. Indeed, man loves firstly himself, then his relations, then his nation, then living creatures, then the universe and the world. He is connected with all these spheres. He may receive pleasure at their pleasure and pain at their pain. However, since nothing is stable in this world of upheavals and revolution, swift as the wind, man's wretched heart is constantly wounded. The things his hand cling to unto tear at them as they depart, even severing them. He remains in perpetual distress, or else plunges into heedless drunkenness. Since it is thus, my soul, if you have sense, gather together all those loves and give them to their true owner. Be saved from those calamities. These infinite loves are particular to one possessing infinite perfection and beauty. When you give it to its true owner, you will be able to love everything without distress in his name and as his mirrors. That means this love should not be spent directly on the universe. Otherwise, while being a delicious bounty, it becomes a grievous affliction. There is another aspect besides, O soul, and it is the most important. You spend all your love on yourself. You make your own soul your object of worship and beloved. You sacrifice everything for your soul. Simply, you ascribe to it a sort of dominicality. Whereas the cause of love is either perfection, because perfection is loved for itself, or it is benefit, or its pleasure, or it is goodness, or causes like these. Now, O soul, in several of the words, we have proved decisively that your essential nature is needed out of fault, deficiency, poverty, and impotence. Unlike the relative degree of darkness and obscurity shows the brightness of light, with regard to opposites, you act as a mirror through them to the perfection, beauty, power, and mercy of the beauteous creator. That means, O soul, that it is not love you should have for your soul, but enmity, or you should pity it, or after it is at peace, have compassion on it. If you love your soul because it is the source of pleasure and benefit, and you are captivated by their delights, do not prefer the pleasure and benefit of the soul, which is a mere jot, to infinite pleasure and benefits. Do not resemble a firefly, for it drowns all your friends and the things you love in the darkness of desolation, and suffices with a tiny glimmer in itself. You should love a pre-eternal beloved on whose gracious favors are dependent all the pleasures and benefits of your soul, together with all the benefits and bounties and creatures of the universe with which you are connected, and from which you profit, and through whose happiness you are happy. So then you may take pleasure at both your own and their happiness, and receive an infinite pleasure from the love of the absolutely perfect one. Anyway, your intense love for yourself and your soul is love for the divine essence, which you misuse and spend on your own self. In which case, rend the egotism in your soul and show him. All your loves dispersed through the universe are love given to you to spend on his names and attributes. You have used it wrongly, and you are suffering the penalty. For the penalty for an illicit, misspent love is merciless torment. For sure, one particle of the love of a pre-eternal beloved who, through the names of most merciful and compassionate, has prepared a dwelling like paradise adorned with houris for you, in which all your bodily desires will be gratified, and through others of his names has readied for you in that paradise everlasting favors that will satisfy all the longings of your spirit, heart, mind, and other subtle inner faculties, and in all of whose names are contained many treasuries of grace and munificence. One particle of his love may take the place of the whole universe, but the universe cannot take the place of even a particular manifestation of his love. In which case, heed this pre-eternal decree, which that pre-eternal beloved caused his own beloved to announce, and follow it. If you love God, follow me, and God will love you. So this is the end of the text, 24th word, 5th branch, first fruit. So let's go back to the beginning of the text. Well, beginning of today's discussion, which we will start discussing from the paragraph which says there is another aspect besides, and which is, he says, is the most important: man spending all love on himself or herself. So I'll give a very brief overview, as I can see, from 30,000 feet, and then we will zoom in, inshallah. So far, he was talking about fear and love being spent to the creation. And he said how much of a calamity it becomes for fear, since we are incapable of defending ourselves from things. So there is no way but we suffer. And for love, the things that we love, they don't stay with us. They just depart momentarily as we taste them. So it becomes another source of torture for human. But now he says, you love yourself, a different form of love now he's talking about. And again, let's keep in mind that this is within now the context of humans worship. And now he is saying, you love yourself to the extent that as if you worship yourself. And he says, love is, then makes another statement. Love is, you love things because of a reason. There must be a reason. What sort of reasons are there for a love? Either there is a perfection or there's a benefit, or some sort of a pleasure, goodness, or some sort of causes like this, then he questions, do I have any of such qualities within myself? Is any of such things exist within me, so much so that I can say, yeah, I love myself because of that? Then he says, no, you don't. But then he continues, he says that, well, if you are loving yourself because it's source of your joys, then, because if I say that, well, out of this self, or the tools that are put on top of this self, I enjoy, and I like tasting joys, so it's reasonable that I love myself. And the author says, not really, as we will discuss why he doesn't think that this is not correct, because apparently he doesn't deny this aspect, but he says it doesn't make sense what you are changing instead. Okay. And then he concludes with a very interesting saying of the, actually a verse, if you love God, follow me, and God will love you, which I believe will change the whole message of this text, as if he was building everything in order to arrive to this sentence, but he didn't mention anything about the messenger up until this very last sentence. He says, if you love God, follow me, or messenger, so that God will love you. So I have a lot of questions in there, because so far we have been talking about loving someone. Where did this being loved by someone come into the picture now? If you love God, when I love God, do I want to be loved by God? First, I guess this is the question. Then a secondary question comes, if I really want to be loved by God, what do I do? So these are just very, very initial thoughts, just to, just so that I feel like I am moderating. So beginning from here on, I will ask for your opinions. Yes, Aisha Rahman, please go ahead.
1 second. Just bring the computer closer. Thank you for this overview. I just I wanted to just share a brief observation or a thought that came to me as I was listening to you, and as you were reading the text, which is that it seems like one thing or one idea that is so stressed and emphasized and repeated upon us in the times and the places that we live in is about loving ourselves. And, you know, the slogans of love yourself, learn to love yourself, prioritize yourself. These are not phrases that are alien to my ears, nor to your ears, I'm sure. And it becomes a sort of mantra, you know, you have to learn to love yourself. And I think, you know, and we might have touched upon this last week as well, at the core of this desire for love, not just for oneself, but to also give it to something else, is the sense of value. I want to feel valuable. And so when people say, love yourself, they mean value yourself or know your value. And I think while the impulse is correct, it's ultimately unsatisfying, because I need to recognize, like, there is a way to gather value without ascribing that value upon myself. It is true that I want to feel valuable, but the solution to being valuable is not to just, as it says, ascribe to myself a sense of dominicality, or ascribe the qualities that I may observe in me to myself. These ultimately lead to dead ends. they're unsatisfying. So I just wanted to share the idea that the impulse and the humanness of these desires is very evident, and everyone experiences it, or else these sort of phrases wouldn't be so widespread, and they wouldn't resonate as much with people. But I guess it's a matter of how do we utilize it? How do I direct it so as to properly I guess make the most of this quality, this need that's given to me, and let it be ultimately lead me to a state of actual contentment, rather than being like someone who's constantly hungry, and you feed them and you feed them and you feed them, but they never feel a sense of satiation, because it's just emptiness. So those are just some things that I wanted to brainstorm out loud.
Jazakallah khair. So I guess the question is, when I say I love myself or love yourself, who is me that I love, or who is the self that I'm referring to in here? And this is what author is doing in here also. He is implicitly making us question, what is it in you that you say there is? So I mean, even before saying that, if it is, whether it is worthy of loving or not, what it is that you say you love. So this is why I guess within the first paragraph of today's text, which I will start slowly reading, is going to question, is there anything to be loved in there, first of all? Okay, I will slowly start reading, and let's see where this takes us to. There is another aspect. This is page 368 from the words for the newcomers. 24th word, 5th branch, end of first fruit. There is another aspect besides also, and it is the most important. You spend all your love on yourself. You make your own soul your object of worship and beloved. You sacrifice everything for your soul. Simply, you ascribe to it a sort of dominicality. While reading that, I'm asking myself, do I worship myself? And as if the author says, if you like a measure, what does it mean that I worship someone? Says you sacrifice everything for your soul. Now I am thinking out loud, and if you have any comment about this, what does it mean to worship everything for my soul? I've never slaughtered an animal for my own name, I guess, to speak very at the superficial level. But what does it mean that I sacrifice everything for my own soul? So it looks like, I guess there's this notion of I, and for that notion of I to become much more polished and more appreciated by others, like just to hear a simple appreciation from someone saying that, oh, Yusuf, this is great, you did it perfect, this sort of a just flattering. Sometimes I give weeks, sometimes I just have sleepless nights working on something or trying to attract somebody's attention. But why is all that? Why am I, for example, trying to attract the other person's attention? Is it for the other person or for my self-image being more shiny, more elevated, so that I'm going to enjoy how good I look through those eyes? So I guess, yeah, I pretty much, looking at my CV, for instance, and trying to add more things into my CV, sometimes I question, what was my motivation and what is my motivation? for what I am working on? Is it like to be known as a successful person, or even for my future plans? I question this a lot actually nowadays. I was saying, well, shall I take such and such courses? Then I said, well, if I'm going to take these courses, how about starting a program, maybe a small master's program in there? What is the point? Then I question for myself. Is it really for learning to understand something, or to add a title in front of my titles so that I am going to appear better? So anyways, in short, I am sacrificing a lot of things. So this part resonates with me. He says, whereas the cause of love is either perfection, well, before that, simply you ascribe to it a sort of dominicality, the author says. Whereas the cause of love is either perfection, because perfection is loved for itself, or it is benefit, or it is pleasure, or it is goodness, or causes like these. Now, O soul, in several of the words we have proved decisively that your essential nature is needed out of fault, deficiency, poverty, and impotence. And like the relative degree of darkness and obscurity shows the brightness of light, with regard to opposites, you act as a mirror through them to the perfection, beauty, power, and mercy of the beauteous Creator. That means, O soul, that it is not love you should have for your soul, but enmity, or you should pity it, or after it is at peace, have compassion on it. So I'll stop here and will ask for your opinions about if you agree with author's description of you ascribing a dominicality to yourself, then also his reasoning about loving something. There must be a reason to love something. This was another point that he made. Then he talked about nafs, like human soul, not having any qualities other than fault and deficiency, so nothing worthy to be loved. Do you also agree with that? Or do you think there are aspects in you which are worthy of appreciation, worthy of being loved? And finally, he makes a comment saying that you should have enmity towards yourself, your soul, which is exactly the opposite of what Sister Risale-i Nur was mentioning. In today's society, love yourself, prioritize yourself is the message. But in here, author says, no, have enmity towards yourself, your soul, or your ego. I guess your nafs, let's use the word nafs. So what do you think about any of these questions? If you have any comments here, I'll pause for a few seconds, waiting for hands to be raised. Brother Bikram, please go ahead.
Jazakallah khairan. So is my sound like coming from far away, or is it okay?
It's okay.
Okay. So like in combination maybe to what Risale-i Nur already said, and your question on top of that. So I guess what author is saying here is that whatever you do in life, it is indeed driven by your search for love, or your what is the word? Your, let's say, desire for love. Love drives you. This is you. And I think he's not saying anything against that. He's not saying that you shouldn't love but hate, or you shouldn't love but show enmity. But he says, yes, this is your goal. Love is what drives you. But you cannot find what are you looking for, what you are looking for in places that you usually choose to try. In places you usually spend your time. One of them, the biggest of them, being yourself. So you as a human being is driven by love, and what can sustain your desire, sustain your need, is either perfection. We can discuss what it means, or goodness or pleasure. So this is what you are looking for, what you should be looking for. Look for goodness, look for pleasure. And if you try it with your soul, if you try it with yourself, you will fail. Because it will not give you the love that you need of. It will not cause you, it will not put you in a position that you are also being loved. So you should be going away from it. This is not the direction that you are looking for. It's just opposite. So turn your back to it. This is what I understand from enmity. I don't think I might be wrong, but I don't think he's prescribing here a fight, a war against yourself, in which you would deprive yourself from certain desires or pleasures or whatever. But instead he says, like, you can try if you like, but this is not what you are looking for. What your soul, yourself can give you is something that you hate, that you have, that you would feel enmity. You would feel enmity to what yourself, your soul, can provide to you. As if, you eat something hot, spicy, and you're looking for something to, suit your pain in your mouth. An author, in that case, comes, Nursi, and tells you that the spicy things, the more spicy things is your enemy. You should feel enmity to them because you are looking for just the opposite. This is what you need. Don't try more spicy things. Just go and drink water or whatever works, I don't know. So spicy things are your enemies. So in that regard, I guess, like in the same way, your soul, yourself, you should feel enmity to what it can provide you, what it would lead to you. It will not lead to you love that you are looking for. So this is how I understand this part.
So then, let me ask a more general question then. What do we understand from nafs or soul in general, the people in the room? And what might it mean to say that have enmity towards your soul? And while answering this, also let's try to answer if, while defining this nafs, this soul, is it something that is needed with deficiency, imperfection, needs? He said, fault, deficiency, poverty, and impotence. These are the words that the author uses. So what does it mean? I mean, let's also try to understand or answer this question more practically. When we say love yourself, and when the author says no, have enmity towards this self, this nafs, what does this practically mean? Brother Birkan said, have enmity towards what it can bring to you. So it was like he took first order derivative, but apparently the author is talking more direct. What do you think? People. I see a lot of names today, mashallah. What is this nafs that we love so much? Brother Birkan, yes, Aisha Nur and Abdurrahman. Let's start from Aisha Nur and Abdurrahman because Brother Birkan has already spoken the latest.
So I was just gonna speak because no one was, but okay, Brother Birkan can go after, inshallah. So I guess first of all, when I first read this, I was kind of surprised, or it just like I found it very intriguing because I was like, yes, it seems that we do love ourselves, or we have this love for ourselves, but at the same time, as Nursi says, you know, we love perfection, or we love the beauty in things, we love the perfection in things. So why do we love ourselves then? You know, and as we've spoken in previous branches and previous discussions, like my claim to anything is so little. You know, any good I do, I can't even attribute it to myself. You know, if anything, I can only attribute my wrong choices to myself. You know, even then, like, let's say even if you wanted to attribute the good to yourself, the good is so little. Like, really, you know, all you see, and since you live in your own body and you're the one that sees yourself 24/7, you know, you see your flaws constantly, you see your wrong choices, you know, you see the things that you regret, and then for some reason you still love yourself, you still value yourself above everything. You know, you prioritize yourself always. Like, something needs to pleasure you, it needs to be for your comfort, it needs to somehow make you happy, or else it's just not important. Like, and just going further on what, like, this nefs is, or how we should feel enmity towards it, I don't think, as also Brother Rickon was saying, I don't think this is like we should be at war with ourselves, or we should hate ourselves. I don't think you should ever hate yourself, but you should, you could even love yourself, but the self that you need to love, and I guess this is where nefs changes from like the self you should love. Like, definition of nefs is the self you need to love is like the self that you see that God is loving you. When you see that God is loving you, or God is taking care of you, or God is granting you many things constantly and always there with you and is sustaining you, you know, you see that he is pouring his love onto you, and you see his mercy on you. So you see that, okay, you know, you're not even, you don't own yourself, God owns you. And if your owner is like pouring this care and love onto you, then, you know, it's not onto you to hate it, to have enmity towards this thing. Like, that's not your right to have hate towards it. At the same time, you shouldn't like love it for itself either, though. You shouldn't, like, you know, you can't love the nefs. And here the nefs, I will, I mean, the definition like that comes to mind now, not really a definition, but the feeling is the nefs is the part of you that lives for itself, like without any consciousness of God. Like, it wants to live for its own continuation. It wants to just please itself. That's its only goal. And as was mentioned, like, it's ironic because by trying to please itself, it's actually ruining you. It's like you eat like a poison honey, and then eventually it poisons you. Like, by trying to please itself, this nefs, it actually leads to like your despair. So my feeling of what nefs is just things that you know, it's everything that takes you away from the consciousness of like your creator, and it's more like the things that just want to please itself, but ironically it leads to your more like despair. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Birkan, would you like to continue?
Sure. Just very like a short thing to add is like when you say, for instance, the taking the first derivative, not directly approaching it. So the way I usually prefer, so this is a personal choice, of course, the way I prefer to approach anything is not through defining them, but through the functions that they have in my life. So for instance, when someone asks me, you know, what is Bushra for you? I would say, you know, she's my daughter, she loves this, she loves that, she laughs in such a way, she cries in that way, whatever. Whatever I have as an interaction with her, whatever I experience through my interactions with her, this is her definition for me. So what she brings to me or what she takes away from me, what kind of feeling she triggers, what kind of ideas she brings to my mind. Of course, I'm using these verbs very loosely. But anyway, this is the definition of Bushra, my daughter, for me. Otherwise, at least, again, this is my personal view, my, let's say, personal, the theory of knowledge, okay? My personal epistemology is that you cannot start defining things externally and then try to see how you see them in your life or how they act in certain ways in different scenarios and so on and so forth. When you define them, you start with scenarios and you start with how you observe, experience their interactions with you or with others. So I prefer such functional definitions. So from this point of view, saying that, for instance, the enmity towards soul or towards self is enmity to what it brings, I would say this is like a zeroth order approach to the self. This is how I define self. Just again, like this is a side note to clarify things how I approach.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair, for that clarification. So now I'm trying to look at what the author is saying in the light of what he was saying before. So for example, he was saying before that you shouldn't be loving the existence for the sake of themselves. So I guess in this case, there is the subject, me, and the object being, let's say, an apricot. I like apricot, and the author says, no, you shouldn't give your love to apricot or to your daughter. So the object being outside. So what does it mean? Am I not going to love apricot or my daughter? I said, no. See who is manifesting in there. The one you love is neither your daughter nor an apricot that is out there independently. Or rather, they are simply mirrors of an all-beautiful one, all-beauteous creator. Now he says, okay, let's take one step further. There is as if another object, which is you are the subject, but also the object of this love. You love yourself. So this is why I guess, I mean, if I say this is me and then like there's no other external object that I am loving in this case. He is talking about me, which is, I mean, if this is what nafs means, it looks like I mean, it's not like something that is added to me. It's not something that I'm going to if I have my car and if I benefit from my car and I love my car because I benefit from my car, okay, there is me who benefits and there's a car from which I benefit from. But if we are talking about me and me in both cases, so it's being a little bit awkward this time. This is what I'm trying to understand now. And can it be that there is as if I am building up an image of self, which I as if solidify. I mean, there's no such independent self is existing actually. But this is what I start solidifying, on top of which I build up value. So I start saying, oh, Yusuf is such and such of a man. So now as if I am looking at this object Yusuf from outside, as if now the one that loves is different than the one that is being loved. But I start imagining an independent existence to this self, and then I enjoy its beauty. The author is as if challenging me in here, saying that what is it in there? Like previously you were looking at the apricot or you were looking at your daughter and there was nothing in there that exists or that happens to be beautiful in and of itself. Now, when you are looking at yourself, is it any different? So to me, this from this point of view, maybe the only extra layer of complexity that comes in is I have a first-hand experience in terms of the feelings that I know I don't own anything. From outside, I can reason and conclude that none of the things that my daughter manifests belongs to her. But when it comes to me being in this body with being or experiencing all those tastes and joys and whatnot, I can also now know with a first-hand experience that I don't own any of them. I guess this seems to be the difference to me with the previous part of the text and this part of the text. So then what does it mean to have enmity towards this? So what I understand from having enmity towards this is to have an enmity towards this false self-image, building up of a false self-image on which I am so strong, so handsome, so this, so that. The idea of building up of such a thing, I should be against. This is what I'm understanding. And please feel free to disagree. Or if anything is missing in there, H-Beza, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. You know, your last comment got me thinking about, like, you know, it's not that the existence of anything in and of itself is not necessarily evil for me. So whenever I look at my nafs, no matter how, like, it might be hard to define it within certain borders or perimeters, but whatever it is, its existence in and of itself is not an evil for me. And so, as you were saying, it is only when I utilize my nafs in such a way where I build up this false image or a false reality for myself, where I'm this or that or whatever, that becomes ugly or untrue or disliked by me. And, you know, when I think about it at its essence, I find myself in love with existence. And that implies that at the same time, I have this non-existence is an anathema to me, something that I dislike, that is abhorrent. So anything, a reality, a false reality that I have made up for myself essentially also looks to non-reality, which I also already can confirm within myself that I already have a dislike for, a great dislike for. So yeah, I was just confirming what you were saying, thinking about it from this perspective. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. So in this case, as if I am like a person who is like boasting about things that doesn't belong to him. Let's say either I stole something from someone, or I have a tendency, let's say, and I am stealing others' goods and then boasting about it to people, saying that I am rich. So this is something to be hated towards. Or let's make it more like a little bit closer to myself. Say I am stealing somebody's idea, like doing plagiarism, publishing papers about it, and then becoming famous. If I have such a tendency, I mean, this tendency is something to be like hated. My hate should be directed towards such a tendency. Or if I am doing such a thing, it's not something to be liked, definitely. Yet that I will enjoy the fame that it will bring to me. And I will say, well, since it makes me happy, it brings me fame, so I will do it. But the image that I'm building is a total lie. There is no beauty that I am building in there, because such a thing doesn't exist in me. It's not mine. But attributing it to me is what makes me receive the joy. It's not that I am enjoying the beauty of the knowledge that I'm going to be publishing. What I enjoy is me being the source of this knowledge, which is a lie, which doesn't have any truth in it. So it doesn't have any basis. It doesn't have any reality. So I guess giving value to this lie, or pretending as if it has a value, is something that I should be against. Practically speaking, to bring it to more practical day-to-day life, if somebody flatters me, am I being happy with it, or do I have an enmity towards being flattered? So when he says have an enmity towards this nafs, I guess a practical example to that would be, to me, when somebody flatters you, you should feel so disturbed. You should be against flattering of this self, because there's nothing to be flattered in that self, nothing to be appreciated that belongs to it. So this is what I understand from having enmity towards this self. Any other comments, corrections, please, or questions? No? Okay. And in the following sentences, he is going to talk about, let me see if, I couldn't find it, but anyways, when we come there, we will refer back to this previous sentence again. So in here, he is describing human self in terms of being a mirror, which reflects the beauteous names as being the opposite of it, or being a not having anything of this sort on itself. And he gives the example of darkness being the best mirror for light. So shall I praise or enjoy the darkness being dark, or shall I claim that, well, I am light because I am being a mirror of light, although there is not a single unit of light in me. So I guess I should be against the idea of boasting with light, although, or due to the fact that I have nothing but darkness in me, and darkness is a non-existence. Okay, I continue reading, and please stop me if you have any comments or questions. Then comes the other part. The author says, if you love your soul because it is the source of pleasure and benefit, and you are captivated by their delights, do not prefer the pleasure and benefit of the soul, which is a mere jot, which is like a small particle, to infinite pleasure and benefits. Do not resemble a firefly, for the firefly drowns all your friends and the things, all its friends and the things that it loves in the darkness of desolation, and suffices with a tiny glimmer in itself. He gives the example of this, a firefly, and it's an interesting way of contemplation. The author is reading the universe. Says firefly as if is representing the love for personal light, this tiny personal light that you have or you are given, but due to being so infatuated by this light, and just to show off with it, you prefer the nighttime. But if you use it, then you cannot see anything else. The whole existence are getting stuck in darkness. So this is a metaphor. What does it mean in my case? So he says, you should love a pre-eternal beloved on whose gracious favors are dependent all the pleasures and benefits of your soul, together with all the benefits and bounties and creatures of the universe with which you are connected, and from which you profit, and through whose happiness you are happy. So then you may take pleasure at both your own and their happiness, and receive an infinite pleasure from the love of the absolutely perfect one. Yes, what do you think about this part? Any comments about here before I try to make any comments because nobody is talking? Did you like the point that the author is making in here? Yes, please, Brother Rikan, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, jazakum khairan again. So how I understand this, you should love a pre-eternal beloved on whose gracious favors everything that you love dependent. So I guess it's important to highlight maybe the last part of this sentence, which is which you are connected and from which you profit, and through whose happiness you are happy, so then you may take pleasure at both your own and their happiness. So your connection with the universe and your happiness within this universe, the benefits that you gain through the relationship with other creatures or yourself, is what drives you to make certain decisions. So if, for instance, a certain understanding of the universe make your relationship with your friends unbearable, a terrible one, then it's not something that you are after. But you are after for something which would not only give pleasure to, like, not only give a pleasure regarding yourself, but everything else. So it would facilitate, it would allow you benefit from the universe, love the universe, and be happy in life that you have. So this is just a highlight. But when we go to the part that author discusses is that, so if when you enjoy something, when you are happy with anything, if you attribute the happiness or enjoyment to yourself, he says this will lead you to unhappiness. This will lead you not benefiting from the things that you love in your life, in the universe. But instead, if you see the reality beyond that, and if you attribute the happiness and the love that you experience, not to things themselves or to yourself, but to the pre-eternal beloved one, who do not perish, who does not perish, who does not disappear, then you will start benefiting from the things that you love. You love your friends, and if you try to attribute things to them or to yourself, here in the text we're talking about myself. So if I say my relationship with my beloved friend, let's say Sister Faria or Atik, brother Atik, is due to my compassionate acts, and your relationship with them is doomed. You cannot benefit from it. Because the next moment you will realize that you don't have any compassion left. Or they don't have any compassion left for you. Or within the moment itself, you will start scaring whether your compassion will be enough or not. Because you are not an absolute, all compassionate one. And you know that. Because your reality is about what you miss, what you need, not about what you have. So if you start talking about your compassion, you already know that your compassion, as Brother Yusuf was saying, is nothing but a mere jot, just a tiny, let's say, a particle. There is something that you experience and you call it as compassion, but it's just a tiny bit that it comes and goes. So when you say, for instance, our beloved sister Hatice Beyza says something very enlightening, very, let's say, to be praised, and she prefers and chooses to attribute it to herself and say that this is me, this is how I speak, this is how I enlighten people. And within the moment, she knows that she cannot benefit from it. It won't make her happy, because the wisdom that she experiences goes and comes and goes. It's not a pre-eternal beloved one. So I guess author says that this is what drives you. You want enlightenment, you want wisdom, you want pleasure, you want happiness, you want love. So spend whatever you have to the one that you can rely on. Otherwise, you will have nothing but anxiety. Whether it will be enough for the next moment, whether I will have it again or not. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Actually, a very recent example that comes to my mind is since Eid al-Adha is approaching, we were having a conversation with a friend over the email. He was questioning how come shedding blood is a worship. Says it's too hard to accept. And he's a devout believer and everything, but recently he started questioning, it doesn't sound right. So while talking about other stuff, I guess one of the major points that we found to be problematic is there's this self-image of, definitely I have pity toward this animal. I'm a merciful person, and I cannot accept how this animal is being just slaughtered for me getting close to the creator. Like, I am the beneficiary from this relationship, but I am sacrificing somebody else's life for that. So, and when you slaughter the animal, you just see that as if the animal is in pain, so on and so forth. It's like a scene that you wouldn't like to see. It looks like the issue in here is, or one of the most central issues are related to our topic here. I have this self-image of I am merciful. So I attribute this tiny mercy to myself, and I enjoy being merciful. The image, the self-image of a merciful Yusuf is something like as if, for example, I can go to the streets and make protests. Now see the level of sacrifice I am doing. I am fighting for the rights of the animals. So I'm not saying this for the others, but when I do it for myself, I am seeing some sort of a feeling in me which looks at myself from outside, a freedom fighter or a justice fighter Yusuf, such a beautiful image, or such a merciful Yusuf. And I enjoy this image, this self-image. But in this latest part, the author is saying that, you know what you're doing by this? By loving this self-image in you, you are putting all the creatures outside which are in need of mercy into darkness. Because since you are the source of mercy, then the animal that you are supposed to sacrifice, or all the animals that are dying out there, some of them being killed by other animals, or some of them are just becoming old and dying by themselves, doesn't matter. Like, think about butterflies. They say they live for a single day. So how cruel that the creator is just annihilating those beautiful things at the end of the day. So it just pierces your hearts. It's against your mercy. How come? The creator must be merciful. This is against mercy. So what's happening in here is, just by ascribing this mercifulness to myself, by being fit with this tiny light, I put the whole existence into the darkness of lack of mercy. I am the one that is to distribute mercy to this existence. And since my mercy is that small, then the whole existence becomes just plunged into the darkness of mercilessness. There is a long note from Suhail. Suhail, do you have access to a microphone? Would you like to make or comment yourself? If possible.
Assalamu alaikum. I mean, just kind of restated what others have said, but I mean, it's essentially the comment talks about how, I found it interesting that he says the self is a mere jot, or essentially something insignificant. It's like it's just a line in the sand, going back to his other words about the self, or the ana, and there's no significance to it, other than taking you back to one that you're in need of. And so to love the self, which is in and of itself insignificant, is contradictory to the self. It's self-insulting because our self, our nafs, our ana, to be sustained, and I just don't mean sustained existentially in to be given existence, but I mean sustained as in like to want to carry on. It's in need of absolute perfection. Otherwise, it has nothing to exist for. As Nursi points out, it plunges the entire world into darkness if it sort of contradicts itself by becoming self-loving, and it realizes even that's not satisfactory because self-love is on a point of absolute perfection. You can't love yourself to the degree that the self is in need of. In other words, the self is not in need of transient love or created love, so to speak. Not essentially, but is in need of one of absolute perfection, that one's love. So attaching the self to that one, that's the only way it finds satisfaction. So and through that realization, do you see that like what the true purpose of man or his self is, his nefs, is that even though it's insignificant, you can't even define what it is. It has, like as Nursi says, it's just a line, so to speak, to distinguish something from something else. But yet in that, whatever it is, it's capable of finding and attaching itself and loving an absolute source of perfection that shows what really its purpose is. Because if you think about it, as Nursi points out, I think some paragraphs before, the fact that within it is that seed shows you that self-love is not what's intended for its existence. Something so unimaginable and so great as that, to think of it, to love something or to attach itself to something beyond just the universe itself in what appears to be an insignificant existence, demonstrates to you what its reality is for. Anything other than that and is a recipe for disaster for the self.
Jazakallah khair. Oh yeah, alhamdulillah. Then I continue with the next paragraph. Any other comments, questions? Atik, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to mention that, this paragraph got me thinking about, that there is a differentiation between pleasure and fulfillment, like living for pleasure, something like, like a physical sensation, or fulfillment, which is, something about like something bringing meaning to your life. And so choosing to live for like physical sensation, just pure pleasure, is not like, you might enjoy it, but it's putting a limit on your fulfillment in life, which is maybe much more enjoyable without, with much more fulfilling. I'm getting caught up in my words, but that's my comment.
Jazakallah khair. And in this, oh yeah, Abdurrahman and Ashina, please go ahead.
So this example of the firefly, it caught my attention. When we love ourselves, it's like the firefly is just like a small light, and then the rest is darkness. But then when she says that when you love or give this love to a pre-eternal beloved one, then you are like this beloved one that everything is dependent on. This beloved one is the one that is the reason for all the favors and all the good in the universe. Then he's saying you can then be pleased by the things that you are given, like the things he gives you. So the things my creator gives me, I am pleased by that. But if I love a pre-eternal beloved one, the things that my creator also gives other people become a means for me to also love my creator even more. So like, and I see that this is something I have difficulty practicing or difficulty implementing. But usually it's just, when I am given something, I am able to be grateful to my creator. But when I see other people are given things, forget being grateful about it. Maybe I'm jealous about it, or maybe I'm like, why haven't I gotten this? Or maybe I'm bitter towards my creator, saying, you give it to them, but you don't give it to me. And I see that, this type of approach is, one, it leaves me unhappy because let's say I'm, in that sense, I'm becoming like a firefly, even if, I'm expecting things from my creator, I'm still like a firefly because I want to only see it in myself and I don't accept it when I see it around me. So I really enjoyed how he says that when I give this love to the pre-eternal beloved one, then I should be able to also look at the rest of the people and creatures and things in the universe. And when I see that they are given so much bounty and so much has been given to them, it should increase my joy. It should increase my happiness because I'm saying, wow, that's my creator that created that for them. That's my sustainer also sustaining them. What a great sustainer he is. So it should increase my joy. That's my comment.
Jazakallah khair. So like in the example of this animal to be sacrificed, so when Ibrahim was asked to sacrifice his son, yes, he was being asked to sacrifice his claim of ownership, but also let's say, okay, he doesn't belong to me. Let's say he did this part of it. But beyond that, sacrificing your mercy, because I think mercy belongs to me. How am I going to deal with this mercy part of it? So the creator is as if saying that I am asking you to do something which is going to be against your taste of mercy. Are you going to be able to do that under my command? Meaning that it's not the merciful one, the all merciful one is commanding me to do this act, which tastes to me like cruel. So by doing that, actually, I am going to start seeing the manifestations of all merciful in the rest of the existence. Because as the example of firefly goes in here, if I don't do that and say, no, this is not acceptable, this is definitely cruel, no mercy whatsoever in here, then what I'm doing is I am becoming this firefly and attributing this mercy to myself. And eventually, this animal is going to die anyways. The rest of the existence plunges into darkness of cruelty. But if I solve this problem with me not being merciful, me not being the source of this mercy, or being against or having enmity towards this self image of self-praise of I am merciful, I will start seeing that the all merciful one is the one that had been providing this animal. And now he is the one that is going to provide me with this animal. So he is the one who gives mercifully, who is taking care of the whole existence, so on and so forth. And now he wants me to, as if slaughter my false idea of me being merciful. So I guess in a sense, once I do that, the whole existence would start becoming a manifestation of mercy to me. Otherwise, I am being the merciful one, or I am being a merciful one, and the rest of the existence becoming plunged into darkness of cruelty. Okay. I'm reading the last paragraph. Anyway, your intense love for yourself and your soul is love for the divine essence, which you misuse and spend on your own self. Reading this sentence again. Anyway, your intense love for yourself and your soul is love for the divine essence, which you misuse and spend on your own self. In which case, rend the egotism in your soul and show him. This sentence is an interesting sentence. This was the sentence I was trying to find before, when he is mentioning have enmity towards your soul. In here, as if he is explaining the sentence, rend the egotism in your soul and show him. So what do you understand from this sentence? So the word rend in here is new to me. I don't know what that word means. I'm going to the original text. He is using the word tear, like tearing down a paper, for instance, the word tear in there, or tear, I don't know how it's pronounced. So he says, tear down the egotism in your soul and show him. And by him, it is with capital H, like he says, tear down ene, show huwa. This is what he is saying here. All your loves dispersed through the universe are love given to you to spend on his names and attributes. You have used it wrongly and you are suffering the penalty. All your loves dispersed through the universe are love given to you to spend on his names and attributes. You have used it wrongly and you are suffering the penalty. For the penalty for an illicit misspent love is merciless torment. For sure, one particle of the love of a pre-eternal beloved. So let me stop here before going with the rest of this paragraph. Do you have any comments about these statements that he made? They were so deep statements. I don't want to just keep reading, although I want to finish this text today. We have 9 minutes. Let's give an extra 5 minutes because we started late, but please go ahead, Brother Bikram.
Jazakallah khairan. So the sentence you just read, highlighted again, which is rend the egotism in your soul and show him. When you read the original one, tear down your ego and show him. So show him, show who, where, or like how tearing your ego and showing him is related. The way I understand, at least, like initially, is that there is this intense love, desire towards something. This love takes you towards something. But when you look at this direction where it takes you, you see your ego, your soul. Why? Because everything you love, everything you benefit, everything you enjoy is related to yourself. you are there to love them, hence you love them. Every relationship with the universe, every happiness that you experience is towards some quality that you observe in you. So for instance, I don't know, an animal, a cute animal is something lovable that you can love because you see the cuteness in there. So you have something to appreciate this cuteness. So when you love the animal, the cute animal, somehow you are at the center. This is how you feel. That which makes you make all these infinitely many different connection with the universe. Thus, you are at the center. This is how you see. But author says that you should go beyond that. So what you see as a self, what you see as a ego, is nothing but like a curtain or a screen that you should tear down. Because beyond that, you will see the real source. You will see what makes you interconnected with the universe. There you will see the core, which would, unite all these different love, pleasures, desires that you have, as author says, which is distributed or dispersed through the universe. Everything will be united in him, with him. So beyond what you, with Yusuf's words, for instance, this false image, when you tear down it, when you get rid of it, beyond you will see Huve. You will see how your soul, how your spirit, maybe more precise, how your spirit is connected to him, how he breathes his spirit in you, which enables, which makes you connected with the universe through all these infinitely many the dimensions, through along all infinitely many dimensions, with all these infinitely many different interactions. So follow these intense desire, intense love that you have. It will take you to yourself first, but tear down it. Realize that it's nothing but just a, I don't know what is the right word, cover, curtain, whatever. And you will find Huve there. You will find him there. This is how I understand.
Jazakallah khair. So the thing that I was directing my love towards, he says it was like, as you said, like a curtain, or it's not the thing that you think it is. I thought I was loving myself because I am merciful. He's saying that there is no you in there which is existing in and of itself. What you are ascribing as my mercy was his mercy in the first place. So this ego, this image of self in you is just like a transparent thing, as if it doesn't have an existence in and of itself. There is no you independent of him. So you is a mirror of him. So the beauty that you are being falling in love with is his beauty. So direct your love towards him, or him being the general term, of course. Like if you love mercy, that is being manifest on you, love the merciful one, and know that the mercy that you love in yourself is his mercy. So be appreciative of his mercy when it comes to the mercy that you are tasting in you. Yes. Then I keep reading. And in here, interestingly, he is also saying, all your loves dispersed, you have used it wrongly and you are suffering the penalty. So this punishment, he is also talking about punishment in here, and it being immediate is also very interesting in terms of humans' actions and the repercussions of these actions being immediately done. And as Quran repetitively says, وَهُوَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ, so the Creator is fast in taking care of the accounts. So, and this is something that we experience as a first-hand experience. For sure, one particle of the love of the pre-eternal beloved who, through the names of most merciful and compassionate, has prepared a dwelling like paradise adorned with houris for you, in which all your bodily desires will be gratified. And through others of his names has readied for you in that paradise everlasting favors that will satisfy all the longings of your spirit, heart, mind, and other subtle inner faculties. And in all of whose names are contained many treasuries of grace and munificence. One particle of his love may take the place of the whole universe. One particle of his love may take the place of the whole universe. But the universe cannot take the place of even a particular manifestation of his love. In which case, heed this pre-eternal decree, which that the pre-eternal beloved caused his own beloved to announce, and follow it. If you love God, follow me, and God will love you. So this last part of the text is as hard as the rest of the text, and I think we have 5 minutes at most. So I will ask for your help so that we can understand what the author is saying in here. Yes, Brother Birkan, please go ahead.
So not to share some comments, but like I'm also reading the original, and there's something I thought deserve to be maybe corrected. So in the English translation, it reads as if the author is talking about houris, which are given for the pleasure of, what is the word it's used in English? Your bodily desires. So as if the author is talking about houris to satisfy your bodily desires, but in the original text, it actually says heaven is like a full of houris, which looks to your entire desires, including spiritual ones, including even your desire for wisdom or anything. It like this heaven is a place of which satisfies all your desires, and then he says, gives the Creator give this heaven to your bodily desires as well, just like he gives it to your other desires. So I thought like it would be good to make this maybe correction, I don't know, but I'm not even sure that I'm right. So if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Okay, so it's interesting that in here he is talking about merciful and compassionate when he talks about paradise. This attracted my attention, he is not talking about, let's say, munificent provider, because if it is like a huge banquet, I mean, I would think of rich, it being a manifestation of richness. But in here he says merciful and compassionate. So I don't know what to say about here. And in here, there's another thing that attracted my attention is he is now as if flipping the table a little bit. I don't know if it is the words, but he says, he starts talking about love of the creator. When he says love of the creator, is he meaning God loving me or me loving God? Or is it the same thing? Maybe, I don't know. This last sentence, I will read it again. One particle of his love may take the place of the whole universe, but the universe cannot take the place of even a particular manifestation of his love. What love is he meaning in here? Does he mean me loving God and even the tiniest of such connection? I mean, me connecting to my creator through love. Is this connection being established is so valuable, or is it realizing God loving me? If it is the second one, what does it mean? Or are they really separate? If they are not separate, I keep asking questions since no hands are being raised, then what does it mean that if you love me, follow the messenger, follow me, so that God will love you? Or God loves you. So as if there is like a bridge between the two statements, me loving God, God loving me, and then there is this bridge in between, or a means for attaining this, which is following the messenger. Why and how? Would you like to make comments about this last part, or shall we discuss this in the beginning part of next week's discussion? It's up to you. Let's leave it to next week, Brother Birkan said. Any other suggestions? Since now majority of cast votes says let's leave it to next week, which is a single vote, but it's a vote. Let's stop here. I guess I'm also inclining to say that let's leave this last part of the discussion to next week. And then inshallah next week we start with this part, and then we continue discussing the second fruit. Because this understanding of this verse, because the author apparently was interpreting this verse so far, but he put it to the very end just to combine whatever has been discussed with this verse. I believe we should put some time in there. Jazakallah khair for all the comments. So let's conclude here. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha.